January 18th, 1919, the day the Treaty of Versailles Conference began. President Woodrow Wilson of the United States of America, Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau of France, Prime Minister David Lloyd George of Great Britain, and Prime Minister Vittorio Orlando of Italy. These four members were the most influential at the conference, and they were called the Big Four. President Wilson wanted his 14 points included in the treaty, especially the League of Nations. The League of Nations required many countries to work together and discuss topics such as trade and world peace. In 1814, 1815, 1870, and 1914, Germany had gone to war with France and had also been victorious. Therefore, France wanted revenge.
Wilson came to Versailles with this notion of a peace without victory. That is, that we don't want to impose a punishment on the defeated Germans. Whereas Lloyd George from Britain, and especially Clemenceau from France, because in their view Germany had started the war, they wanted to punish Germany, right? They wanted to inflict damage, to dismember the German Empire, to keep the Germans from rebuilding their military. So I'm not so sure it had to do with previous alliances as it did with their own internal politics within Britain and France, because people in Britain and people in France were universal in saying Germany caused the war, Germany has to be punished. And if they hadn't pursued that, then they would have been weakened politically, right? Clemenceau and Lloyd George would have been very weakened politically if they had disregarded the popular sentiments in their own countries. And so I think what happened at Versailles and the failure to adopt all of Wilson's 14 points had less to do with previous treaties than it did with internal politics within their own countries. Because if they had, ignored the popular insistence that Germany be punished, they themselves would have been thrown out of office, right? So Wilson's notion that we should have a peace without victory, that we're not going to punish anybody, and so we're going to try to, to not punish Germany and not impose all these penalties and basically humiliate Germany. We don't want to do that, said Wilson. But Clemenceau and Lloyd George disagreed. And so that's why the Treaty of Versailles was so, so punishing for Germany.
The Germans lost a lot of territory because of the Treaty of Versailles. They even lost some territory they had gained before World War I. Also, the German citizens were forced to reduce their military, and Air Force and Navy were not permitted. The German citizens had to pay a lot of money for war reparations. At one point in time, 1 trillion German marks was equal to $1 US. This was one of the main reasons Hitler could turn the German citizens against the Allies and towards war and bloodshed.
Now we have this treaty that punishes Germany. It said, we're going to shrink your borders. We're going to make you sign this treaty that says you caused the war, right? You have war guilt, and you have to pay us back. You have to pay reparations. And your military can only grow so big. We're going to prevent you from, growing your military. And so all these things created a really fertile breeding ground for someone like Adolf Hitler to come along and say, we weren't defeated by the Allies. We were defeated by our own traitors. We were stabbed in the back by the traitors of Versailles. And so that's exactly what Hitler then argued as he, formed this National Socialist Party. And, he wasn't very good at anything that he had tried before in life. He wasn't a very good painter, wasn't a very good artist. He wasn't a particularly effective soldier in the war. But he found out he had a special gift at sort of mobilizing people and rabble-rousing. And so he began giving speeches, and the more he talked about the stab in the back and how Germany is being humiliated, the great German nation has been humiliated by these traitors of Versailles. So this is the language. And then, because this is very often what dictators and wannabe dictators do, he started blaming other people. You know whose fault it is? It's the Jews, and it's the communists, and all these other people who aren't real Germans. So he began dividing Germans into, sort of real Germans and traitorous Germans. And so by scapegoating and by blaming the traitors of Versailles, the communists, the Jews, he was able to garner a lot of popular support. And so the Treaty of Versailles, in many ways, totally backfired, right? The goal was to create what Wilson called, the war to end all wars, and a treaty that would endure the test of time. And in fact, what it did is it punished Germany and created a fertile breeding ground for radical nationalists like Hitler to come to the fore. And then it really damaged the economy, right? I mean, you know that the economy was, because Germany had to pay reparations, they had to pay back. And so unemployment was through the roof. In order to pay back all that money, they started printing money, right? And so they print all this money, hyperinflation sets in, to the point where there are photographs of women taking wheelbarrows full of money to the store to buy a loaf of bread, right? Or even burning Deutschmarks in the stove in order to, to cook the evening meal, because they were worthless. And so hyperinflation, mass unemployment, debt everywhere, and so all these things created this incredibly fertile breeding ground for this kind of radical extremist nationalism. Because all nationalists, the basic idea of a nationalist is to say some people are in the nation and all these other people are out. And the basic question for any nationalist is who's in the nation and who's out of the nation, and how do we decide? So what Hitler is saying is that only real the Aryan race is in the nation, the great German nation. Jews are out, communists are out, the traitors of Versailles are out, the gypsies are out, and so by drawing these very stark lines, the Treaty of Versailles really facilitated that because of its punishment of Germany and its kind of humiliation of the German nation.
Prime Minister Edouard Daladier from France was one of the main people present at the Munich conference. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain from Great Britain was also important at the Munich conference. Last but not least, Chancellor Adolf Hitler from Germany was at the Munich conference too. And Prime Minister Edouard Daladier and Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain told Adolf Hitler that if he invaded Poland, then they would declare war on him and his countries. The German army has invaded Poland. Great Britain and France have declared war on the German nation. World War II has officially begun.